Hi, my name is T.L. Cowan, and I am a professor of media studies at the University of Toronto. I am also a performance artist, a video artist, and I write personal essays and stories about my own life. So I have left my set here, my home, study, and studio in the state that it lives in normally, which is a mess, in order to not sanitize the truth about my life. So I've left it here quite chaotic because my life is often chaotic, and this space always reflects that. And indeed, it reflects the fact that I actually work and think best when things are a little out of place. But I'm also feeling a little exposed by this because I know that, we're supposed to, in a kind of professional world, clean up our space before we record a video that lots of people are going to watch. But I've chosen not to do that in order to allow us to kind of think together about this theme of exposure. I study trans feminist and queer performance and media and the intersections between offline and online art and life. And I have been invited by the Goethe-Institut to respond to the film Searching Eva, written and directed by Pia Hellenthal and starring the actor Eva, who now goes by the name Adam, in the title role. So the film is based on a self-named Tumblr blog that the artist had been using to record elements of their life, friendships, familial relationships, sexual encounters, both paid and unpaid, and their relocation from apartment to apartment, from city to city. Searching Eva is part of the Goethe-Institut series on the theme of exposure. So I found this film to be a compelling contribution to the long genealogy of trans feminist and queer performance and video art, based on an appreciation of the necessity to bear the lived realities of people living outside of what we might think of as a respectable life. So not just a clean and sanitized life, but a life that is actually lived or presented as if this is how it's actually lived. So often queers, trans people, feminists, and sex workers make art that exposes the truth, not just of their own lives, but through telling the stories of their own lives in these very exposing ways, are also telling the stories of the systems of political, cultural, and economic power, and the problems with mainstream representation of mainstream lives. And so this story, Searching Eva, uses experimental forms of storytelling to make what we might call a blog-based film about people who, as the artist says, have all been raped by capitalism and the patriarchy. Dragging the Tumblr style, and so you might want to think, what does that mean, have been raped by capitalism and the patriarchy? What does that mean to you? So dragging the Tumblr style that we see on the small screen of our mobile devices to the potentially big screen of film festivals and movie theaters, the storyline of Searching Eva is fragmented by interludes showing anonymous comments and the blogger's responses to these comments about what we might be tempted to think of as deeply personal and even private aspects of life. So I wonder what parts of this film, or were there parts of this film, that make you think, oh, this is too much information, TMI? What you might want to keep in mind as you're kind of thinking through that, potentially, is that trans feminist and queer expressive cultures through performance art, mixed media art, theater, visual art, literature, zines, spoken word performance, music, and video and film, all of these have long pushed the limits of TMI, or too much information, as our artistic realm. You might look to the work of artists like Jess Dobkin, Dana McLeod, Dana Danger, Sasha Van Bonbon, Alex Tiglar, Les Scandals and Operation Snatch, Thurza Cuthand, Vivek Shreya, Mira Soleil Ross, and Michelle Pearson Clark, for example, who all make work that thematizes exposure and brings personal and private moments, images, and embodiments into the realm of the public, as a shared political aesthetic that interrupts and refuses conventional understandings of decency that have historically kept women, queers, and trans people away from the public eye, except when we're being disowned, shunned, or our lives used as a cautionary tale. So when I watch Searching Eva, I think about the genealogies of contemporary art, and I also think about how whiteness and waifishness plays into the aesthetic of this particular film, perhaps lending it a sense of entitlement and familiarity with being looked at in ways that presume innocence, and how this look and feel feels troublingly familiar in a Canadian context. And this might help us to think about how race and ethnicity play into our expectations about trans, feminist, and queer and sex workers' lives and art. I hope that you enjoy engaging with Searching Eva and the rest of the exposure series. And thanks for listening to my little introduction.